All right, the question everyone wants to know the answer to: what is Conor McGregor's next move? We just heard an interview from Dana, released from Brett Okamoto, did the interview on the ESPN YouTube channel, talking to Dana about what Conor's next move is, what he thinks about Cowboy, Cowboy and Conor saying that he'll fight Cowboy for that last performance he gave. And Dana said he's okay with it. He said they want to fight each other, and he's okay with it happening, which is very interesting to me. It just seems like there's a lot of other alleys, a lot of other options for Conor McGregor that would just make more sense, to be honest. They make more sense than Conor fighting Cowboy just based off of Cowboy calling him out politely, saying that Conor has the decision in his hands. He makes the decision as to who he's going to fight. He said it's like hitting the lottery when Conor wants to fight you. I mean, he's kissing his ass, which is respectable. I mean, Conor deserves respect and deserves to be spoke about like that. He's earned that, I believe. But what about Khabib? What about Tony Ferguson? What about Max Holloway? Jose Aldo after his last finish? I mean, there's just a bunch of other options that seem to make more sense. I mean, look at Tony Ferguson, for example. After being stripped of the interim belt, with that, what was it? His whole leg was cut open, basically. They gave him like a year and a half to recover. He recovered in 6 months. The man has just been on a tear for the longest time now in the UFC. He's a monster. He fights his own style, snap jitsu. Tony came up with his own fighting style. I mean, that tells you how much of a badass this guy is, and he most definitely deserves the shot at the title. I mean, Tony's been calling Conor out forever, calling him McNuggets after every post-fight interview. And it just seems like it would make sense for them to fight. Then you've got Max Holloway. Max Holloway's coming off that win against Brian Ortega, Brian Ortega is one of, if not the best, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioners in the UFC, period. He's so slick, he's so fast, he's so technical, and his Jiu-Jitsu is so basic, with that Gracie background. It's almost unstoppable, and Max Holloway found out a way to do that. Max Holloway's a warrior from Hawaii. He doesn't give up. He goes out there to put on a show for the fans every fight. And there's history with Conor, between them two, between Max and Conor. Conor and Max fought when they were both really early in their careers. Conor won, of course, but there's history there. There's a storyline that the UFC could base their promotions off of. And then you've got Khabib. I mean, we all know the story with Khabib. We all know what's happened. We all know the dolly through the bus window. We all remember Khabib jumping in the audience, eagling on Dylan Dennis. And you know, that fight seems like no matter what, it would sell millions and millions of pay-per-views. So that's another fight that's kind of like, now, given Khabib knocked him out and actually smashed him. I mean, I hate to say that, and I almost stuttered, or I did stutter with my words there, because I hate to say that about Conor, but he got smashed. Khabib flattened him. And it generally wouldn't constitute a rematch, but with the appearance that Conor has built for himself, and with the notoriety that he's gained for himself, you know, it would just make sense for them to make that fight again. Then look at Nate Diaz, even, for example, someone I didn't even mention in the beginning of the video, but Conor versus Nate Diaz 3 would be huge. It would most definitely sell millions. It seems like it's almost guaranteed that it would perform well. The only thing with that, though, Nate Diaz, or Nick Diaz for that matter, the brothers just don't seem like they want to fight lately. They're doing their own thing. They're smoking a lot of weed. They're getting high every day and just relaxing and enjoying life, which you can't really hate on them for that. It's understandable. They built a good name for themselves. They're very active in their community. So it kind of makes sense as to why they're sitting back and relaxing a bit. But why keep putting your name in the hat for these fights? I mean, from what I understand, Nate Diaz and Nick Diaz have been offered multiple fights and turned them all down. I believe they've gotten close to signing the contract a couple times and just changed their mind, which again is understandable. I get that, but it just doesn't make sense why he keeps throwing his name in the hat for these fights and then kind of backing out. I mean, he starts shit. Maybe he just likes to talk shit. You know, I would get that. A lot of people do that these days to kind of gain a name for themselves, and it works. You know, you can't hate on him for it. But yeah, I mean, everyone would like to see Nate Diaz Conor 3. Then you got Jose Aldo, which just absolutely smashed Renato Moicano, which is one of the biggest names on the uprise in the UFC. I mean, he's got his own fighting style. He's very fluid. He's very technical with his strikes. I mean, the man is he's a ninja. He fights like a ninja. It's very interesting to watch. And Jose Aldo took him out. He knocked him out round 2, which is crazy to see. I mean, Jose Aldo, I think for maybe the second or third time in his career, he was the underdog in that fight against Renato Moicano, and he came out victorious, and that did a lot for his mentality as well. I think Jose Aldo rather needed that win. He needed any win to kind of get his mentality back straight after losing 2 consecutive after that Conor fight. After getting knocked out in 13 seconds against Conor, you wouldn't think it constitutes a rematch, but still, it seems more interesting to me than Conor versus Cowboy. And with all that being said, with all those options being on the table, it's just very peculiar that they chose to go with Cowboy over any of these other fights. It seems like there's an ulterior motive there. It seems like they've got a bigger plan in mind. Like they want Conor to come back, have a decently easy fight. I mean, don't get me wrong. Cowboy Cerrone is not an easy fight in any sense of the word, but people tend to think that Conor would beat Cowboy. I mean, that's just the way it is. Conor will be the favorite. He'll have the lines in Vegas. You know, that's just going to be the way it is if this fight turns out to come to fruition. And that's fine, but my whole point with this video is just there's a lot more interesting options. Any of those options I named, Max Holloway, Jose Aldo, Nate Diaz, Tony Ferguson, anybody, any of those fighters would be a more interesting fight for Conor right now than Cowboy Cerrone. I mean, Cowboy, he called him out. Again, I'm circling back to this, but it's just so unconventional how Cowboy called him out, especially these days. The fights are based on dramatics. They're based on storylines. They're based on how well the UFC can promote them. And it's just not the most promotable fight between Conor and Cowboy. It'll be a great fight. It'll be a show for the fans. The hardcore MMA fans are going to love this fight, but I think your average viewer, the people that tune in only when Conor fight or only when big names fight, I don't think it's going to really catch their attention like the UFC is hoping it will. But again, I'm excited for the fight. I want to see anything Conor does. I've always been a huge fan of him. I'll continue to follow him. No matter if he loses or wins, he's just so charismatic, and he carries the company on his back so well that it's hard to take your eyes off of him. So it's going to be interesting to see how the UFC plays this. I think Dana's a genius. He knows how to run a business. He knows how to run the UFC for sure. So it'll be interesting to see how they play it. I'm sure it's going to work out. If you have Conor attached to anything, he could be fighting anybody. He could be fighting Ronda Rousey, and he'd probably do a 2 or 3 million pay-per-view buys. That's just the way the game goes these days. But I would have liked to have seen him fight someone else. It's not set in stone that him and Cowboy are fighting, but if Conor says he wants it and Cowboy says he wants it and Dana says he's okay with it, what are you going to do? Sean Shelby can't step in and say, no, I would rather see you fight Max Holloway or Tony Ferguson or whatever the case may be. It just doesn't work like that. Conor makes his decisions, and it'll be fun to watch. I'm interested, once again, I'm interested to see how it plays out. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this video, guys. I just wanted to kind of touch base on that situation and kind of try to work out in my own head even what the hell's going on, what their move is, what their plan is with this Cowboy Conor fight. But I know I'll be watching. I'm sure basically all of you will as well. You'll pay the pay-per-view buy or you'll stream it somehow. But nonetheless, guys, I appreciate you tuning in. Definitely keep up to date. Let me know who you think Conor's going to fight next. Is he going to fight Cowboy? Are they going to change their mind and go with Tony or Max or Jose or Nate Diaz 3, whatever the case may be? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll see you next video.